Welcome everybody. I'm Andrea Miller and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at Community Hospitals and Wellness Centers in Bryan. And I'd like to welcome our live audience and viewers at home to Live It Squash and Sauce. And today I have a special sous chef with me. I have Elizabeth Seibert. She's a pharmacist here at the hospital and she's going to help me to make some fall recipes using some seasonal produce. So today we're making an applesauce, a chai applesauce, and also a chicken recipe that features my favorite vegetable, a squash. And today we're using an acorn squash. So Elizabeth, a little bit about you. You have a big family at home.
We do.
How many kids do you have?
We have 6.
6 kids.
Yes.
And you were saying you have 4
girls
and 2 boys. Yeah. So that is you are a super parent, in my opinion. And you look like you have it all together all the time. You look like you just love what you do and you love having a big family.
We do.
So we have 2 kids and 1 on the way, and it can be a challenge to feed all those mouths.
It
so
is.
how do you do it? What are your secrets to feeding a big family?
Just make a lot. We do use our crock pot quite a bit.
Okay. You have a big garden.
We do have a garden, and that helps. We
Yeah.
put up green beans. The kids love the green beans canned. We've done pizza sauce and spaghetti sauce. And
awesome.
Yeah.
And they help you quite a bit in the kitchen,
They do.
Like.
They do. They get all excited about canning. And some of them, and some of them don't care to snap beans. So.
Teach them young, right?
Exactly.
Well, today we're going to start with our applesauce, and you actually, I think you might be one of the first sous chefs that has a piece of kitchen equipment that I don't. And you had a special name for it. I call it a food mill, but you called it a...
Squeezo. We have a Squeezo brand food mill.
You said that was a tool that your kids particularly like to use.
They do. They take turns who's cranking it and who's putting stuff in the top to go through. And
yeah. So food mill is a tool. It's basically a big bowl, and its purpose is to kind of sieve the produce like tomatoes or apples, and it kind of gets out the peels or tomato seeds and things like that as you're pressing it through. So that's a great tool to use for an applesauce. You could use that for the recipe we're doing today, but you don't have to. I'm trying to give you a simple recipe that you can make a quick applesauce. It's going to feed a lot. So let's get started with our apples. And we're just using a crock pot today. So for our applesauce, we have 2 different types of apples, and that's a really good strategy. I'm going to give you a couple. I know you're a pro in the kitchen, so you need about 8 apples, so I'll give you 2 of each. We're using a Golden Delicious, which is a really sweet apple, so that helps with preventing us from needing to add more sugar to this recipe. Right. We're not actually adding any sugar to this recipe, although you could if you use like a tart apple. I would recommend tasting it at the end, and if you need a little bit of sugar, just add the smallest amount that you need. And then the other one, I think this is a gala. What would you say?
Yeah.
Maybe? I'm not an apple connoisseur, but I think it's a gala.
I could have told you Golden Delicious, but...
So you can really use any apple you want for this recipe. The baking apples that are more firm sometimes don't work as well. You may need your, what'd you call
Squeezo.
it? Squeezo. Your Squeezo for that recipe. But these, we're just going to, these should get nice and soft. So we're going to start by cutting up the apples, and you can really do this in any way that you want. We're going to leave the peel on the apple today because the peel has a lot of the nutrients in it, especially the fiber, which most Americans are kind of lacking in. So we're going to keep the peel in the squash. If your kids are picky and don't like the peel, you can certainly take it off. That's going to take more time, or run it through your Squeezo, or even just puree it in a food processor. That would all work as well. So just go ahead and take the core out, and then just give them a rough chop. So I'm cutting them about that size.
All right, that'll look okay.
Yeah, perfect. Looks good. And sometimes using 2 different kinds of apples in this recipe works well. because you can kind of get one that's a little bit more sweet and a little bit more tart. So you get a variety of different flavors in this recipe. So with apples, some of the nutrients that are in apples, there's not a ton. If you look at the vitamin and mineral profile, it's not all that impressive. There's some vitamin C, there's some potassium, but where they really get impressive is the antioxidants. So we've all heard the quote, "An apple a day keeps the
doctor away." So, so they're very rich in antioxidants, and there's some evidence that eating apples can help to reduce the risk of cancers, heart disease, diabetes. So definitely, even though the profile of vitamins and minerals doesn't appear that impressive, there's still a lot of benefits to eating them. So in this recipe, not only are we using fresh apples, we're getting them all cut up, leaving the peel on to make it a little bit healthier, but we're actually going to amplify this recipe and make it kind of more like a dessert by adding a couple other ingredients to make it really yummy. We're going to add some spices to this recipe to make it a chai spiced. So, and also some vanilla. So it's kind of reminiscent of like an apple pie or just like a really fun fall treat. This is a great time to make applesauce because they're in season right now. I would say I eat probably 85% of my apples this time of year, from like September until December, I would say. But they obviously are available year-round. No, we have a couple apple trees also, and the kids are pretty excited about.
Do you know what variety you have on your apple tree?
Are just Golden Delicious.
Golden Delicious.
So they make excellent sauce.
Yeah. Golden Delicious are great for sauces and obviously fresh eating. And
I've been asked several times if they're ready to go yet. Can we make sauce?
So you make a lot of sauce at home then?
Enough to get us through.
Yeah. How many cans of sauce on average do you think you make for a family of 6?
Oh.
Or sorry, 8.
8. Yeah.
A family of 8. 6 kids.
We have a pretty good pantry. I couldn't tell you. I think last year we put up like 45 quarts of beans, so I can tell you that.
That is
30-some pints of salsa. Yeah.
Very impressive.
I would say we eat pizza probably once a week, homemade pizza, and we made all our sauce last year, and I think we have a few pints still left, so
That's
at least 52.
When you have a big family, sometimes, you have to do that stuff to get through. So we're almost done chopping our apples. I'm on my last one. How you doing over there?
I've got a quarter here to go.
All right, perfect. So give them a rough chop. You can see the crock pot is almost full. We used 8 big apples. Your apples probably on your tree, do they get as big as the apples that we have?
Probably not quite that big.
Smaller?
A little bit smaller.
I find that sometimes the commercial apples don't tend to get quite as big, huh? Or the home
ones,
the commercial apples are bigger.
Yes.
So we have our crock pot full of red and golden apples, and then we're going to add a splash of lemon juice just to kind of help it to stay white and not turn so brown. Whoops. And just about a teaspoon. That was probably a little more than a teaspoon, but that's okay. And I'm going to give it a quick stir. And we're going to add our spices and our vanilla. I'll let you do the stirring if you want. So we're going to start with some vanilla, about a teaspoon of vanilla. And then, of course, cinnamon. So a chai wouldn't be complete without a cinnamon. And apples and cinnamon, they're just a match made in heaven. So a teaspoon or so of cinnamon, ginger, some ground ginger. And then a spice that you might not be familiar with called cardamom. And how to describe cardamom? It goes really well in both sweet and savory dishes. A lot of Indian dishes have cardamom, but also a lot of baked goods definitely it's in the chai, like any chai flavored foods would have cardamom in it. I love it in baking and like fall flavored items. So we have some cardamom, cloves, which most of you are familiar with, just a little bit of the cloves, and the nutmeg, a 1/4 teaspoon, or I think it's even 1/8 of a teaspoon of each. So it smells really yummy, and when you plug this in and start cooking it, your whole house is gonna smell like fall. So it'll definitely get you in the mood for some cooler temperatures. So all you do is cover it and let it cook on low for about 6 hours, or you could turn it up to high and cook it for a little less time. You really could do this on your stove too. Oops, I forgot one more thing. A cup of water.
I suppose you could leave that out if you wanted it extra thick.
Yeah, you really could. So you might want to, if you're doing a crock pot, you could give it a try without the water.
You have to watch it.
Yeah, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. I thought the same thing. I thought, wow, that's kind of a lot of water to put in there, but when they were all cooked, it didn't seem like it was too runny. It all kind of worked together with the apples. Now, when I got done with mine, when it was cooked at 6 hours, all I did was took a spoon and stirred it, and it, like, I didn't even need to do any additional mashing. Like, it was like applesauce right there, and that was it. You can also take a potato masher and mash them up, or your food mill. Squeeze. I can't remember squeeze-o for some reason. the food mill, run it through a food mill, and that would actually get a lot of the peels out. If your kids don't like peels, and it's going to look more like the applesauce that you would get in the store. Or if you want it really smooth, you can run it through a food processor or use like an immersion blender. And I'm going to sneak around here real quick. I'm going to bring these up. So these are what they look like. This is what the applesauce looks like when it's all cooked. It's going to have a lot of, cinnamon in it and other spices, and it's going to be chunky. So it's kind of a more chunky type of applesauce, but you can certainly change that if that's not something that you or your family likes.
Here at the Williams County Veteran Service Office, our mission is plain and simple. We are here to serve our local Williams County veterans and their dependents. We are staffed with trained service officers who have the compassion and understanding to assist their fellow veterans in obtaining all federal and state benefits that they have earned. Additionally, we provide emergency financial assistance and transportation to VA medical centers. So if you're a veteran or a dependent of a veteran, stop in today and see how we can help you at the Williams County Veteran Service Office.
One thing that hasn't changed here at Bryan Ford Lincoln is our commitment to service. It's in everything we do. It's in our mission statement. Our goal is simple: customers for life. Kick back in our newly renovated service lounge or business center. We pick up and deliver throughout the local area at no charge. So the next time you need service on your Ford or competitive make vehicle, come out and see us at Bryan Ford Lincoln and see why we've earned Ford Motor Company's President's Award 7 times running.
We know in life that we take time to celebrate life events. We help families honor the lives of those they love by highlighting what made their loved ones special and honoring the legacy that was left.
We are often very busy, but we encourage families to slow down, take time to gather together, and celebrate the impact their loved one had on their life. Allow us to work with you when the need arises to create a personalized and meaningful service. Oberlin Turnbull Funeral Home, we are always here when you need us.
You're one of a kind, unique in every way. Shouldn't your home be too? King's Flooring and Furniture in downtown Defiance. 20,000 square feet of showroom with style and quality you won't find anywhere else. And they're an outlet store too, so you can find the pieces you've always wanted and not crush your budget. It doesn't stop at furniture either. King's has one of the largest selections of flooring and tile in the area. Find them on the web at kingsflooringandfurniture.com. King's Flooring and Furniture in downtown Defiance.
All right, so let's get started on our next recipe. And this one, we're going to use the acorn squash. So this can be a little bit intimidating for some people.
Yes.
Because it does have that hard shell. So we've done butternut squash in the past, and you actually said you're growing butternut squash in your garden. Butternut squash can be intimidating too with that hard shell.
But so how I'm going to attack this is, well, first of all, let's talk about, if this is a good one or not. So you can see it's kind of more dull on the outside. If it's really shiny, it's either coated in a wax or it's not right. There's a little tiny orange spot on the bottom, which is good. It means, again, it's right, but if there's too much orange, it might mean that it's an old squash. Like I've noticed if I have a acorn squash that's been stored for a while, it starts to turn more orange. But don't get confused because there are actually orange squashes, which are okay. You can actually find orange and white. So there's a wide variety of acorn squashes, and then different mixes of them that are similar but slightly different. So storage of them, if you get them fresh, they say 2 to 3 weeks is optimal storage time. If you get them from the grocery store, a little bit less, use them, a little bit faster because you don't know how long they've been sitting in the grocery store. I will be completely honest, I have stored these things for months. But sometimes they do get a little bit more dry and stringy if you store them for a longer period of time. And they store well at room temperature, maybe a little bit cooler than room temperature. If you have a cool, dry spot to store them, that works well. Don't put them in your refrigerator. It actually shortens the storage time if you refrigerate them. So, butternut though, that you grow in your garden, that has a much longer storage. So
I think we kept them through the winter.
Oh yeah, sometimes. And like I said, I store acorn squash for longer than 2 to 3 weeks.
We grew a wheelbarrow full of butternut squash, and we're
oh my goodness,
carrying them around the neighborhood, passing them out.
I would love to come look at your garden. Maybe we'll do a follow-up on this episode in a year and come out to your house and see your garden. So, and I'll give you half.
Sure.
I'll let you do half of it over there.
I have a spoon.
So I sliced it kind of lengthwise, and you can see that there's seeds in the middle. Those you want to scrape out. The seeds actually are edible, so you can roast them just like you would pumpkin seeds. And they're really good, actually. So this seems like a really good squash. It's not too stringy on the inside, which is a good thing. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get when you open up a squash, and you don't know until you taste it whether it's going to be sweet or not so sweet. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to set it cut side down on our cutting board. And then we're going to cut these into like little semicircles. About ½ inch thick. So they look like that. They're kind of pretty. And obviously there are lots of different ways you can cut the acorn squash. Sometimes I'll just leave it like I originally had it, cut down the middle and stuff it. But for this recipe, I'm going to cut it like this. And then this top part with the stem I'm going to set aside. This is a pretty large baking or roasting pan. You don't need one quite this large.
Unless you're feeding my family.
You probably want to like triple this recipe for your family. I'm sure this is like standard for you in your house,
exactly.
Right?
All my pans are that big.
You need them to be. So we sprayed it with a little cooking spray. And then we can just go ahead and start layering our squash right on in. Perfect. I'm going to start cutting up some carrots. Actually, I'll give you the carrots.
Sure.
I'll be nice today. I'm going to give you the carrots because you're excellent at chopping everything up, and I'm going to do the onion.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate
if anybody's
that.
going to cry, I'll cry today. So, well, and I'll let you pick. Should we use red or white for this recipe?
I'd go white, I think.
Go white. All right, we'll use white. It doesn't really matter.
Whatever's in the pantry.
And just slice up the carrots into small pieces because the squash will actually cook quite a bit faster than the carrots because the carrots are harder, believe it or not. So I noticed when I made it, my carrots were a little bit crunchy and the squash was pretty tender, so, which is okay. You want your squash to be tender, but carrots can be a little bit crispy. Perfect. I'm just taking the outer layers off the onion, and you can cut the onion into several different shapes. You can kind of dice it up, but you want them roughly a little bit bigger than the carrots. So I'm actually going to cut them into like little strips. So I cut it in half, and then I'm going to quarter it. And then cut the quarters into several pieces so that they kind of look like strips. And then those can just go
Sprinkle it on.
right on in, sprinkle them right on top. So this is a super easy meal. When you have a big family or a small family, no matter your family size, having recipes that are really quick and easy, especially things that can kind of go in the oven. Oven meals are nice because you can kind of get them done quickly, put them in the oven, and then what I like to do is get my kitchen cleaned up. Get a couple other things checked off the list that you need to do, play with your kids, whatever, and then dinner's ready half an hour later. I don't know if you find that is a good strategy for you too.
I do, and sometimes I will throw something in the oven and sneak out for a workout. There are enough people at my house that can watch the oven for me now that are responsible enough to keep on the timer. And
I will admit that I have done that too.
yes.
We live close to a park, so I've even put something in the oven, taken a lap around the park,
Yep.
come back in, check
on
on
it.
everything, go out for another lap.
Yes.
So it's amazing what you can squeeze in if you really get creative with your time, which you have to do.
You do. Oh, definitely.
We're going to sneak around and grab the chicken. So today we are using boneless, skinless chicken thighs, which I don't think we've done yet on Live It. They're pretty available. I would say they're just as available as chicken breast now. And I actually prefer them because they're much more tender, juicy
Yes.
than the chicken breast. So they just look like this. They're pretty small. They're good, portion size, especially for a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Adults might need, a couple, or 1.5. So I'm just layering those, and I turned them the wrong way. I'm turning them like the nice pretty side down first. They usually come in about 6 per package. So that's the first step, and then you don't even cover it. You pop it in the oven and roast it for about 10 minutes, and then you take it out of the oven and you add your last couple of ingredients. And I'm going to sanitize my hands real quick. They were joking with me before we started the show, ooh, raw chicken, Andrea's favorite, because I really don't like touching raw meat all that much. I don't like chopping it up, but that's the benefit of the boneless, skinless thigh, is that you don't have to do any chopping. It's already ready to go. Okay, so I am going to sprinkle with a little bit of pepper on this side, or a lot of pepper. I like pepper. And you can use as much as you want of pepper to add flavor. The one you have to be careful with is the salt. But I am going to add just a tiny bit of salt over it. And you can, again, add to your taste. So again, put it in the oven, roast it 10 minutes, and then you add the secret ingredients, which would be balsamic vinegar, a 1/4 cup of that. We'll see, pretty good. And then also a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And I'm just going to stir that together. I'll let you pour that over in just a second.
All right.
So then, after you take it out of the oven, it's been cooking for 10 minutes, you turn the chicken over. Carrots are coming with it. That's all right. And I'm going to put a little bit more pepper on top, I think. And then you pour the glaze over everything, all over everything. Perfect. And by the way, your oven temperature is 450 degrees. So then you stick it back in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes until the chicken is cooked through, or until it reaches an internal temperature of about 165, or at least 165. And the squash is fork tender, the carrot should be tender, and you're all ready to go. And actually, these two dishes, the chicken and squash and the applesauce, make a really nice meal together. Sure. Really balanced and complete, and really delicious fall-themed meal. So when it comes out of the oven, and when you plate it up all nice, it's going to look like this. So really, really yummy. I can see myself making this all fall. So one last question that a lot of people ask. To eat the skin or not to eat the skin? What's your opinion?
We usually pick it off, but
pick it off.
I have somewhat picky people at my house.
Yeah.
And it depends on the squash.
It does.
Delicata squash, we will eat the skin.
Okay.
But
So
butternut I usually pick off.
Butternut, yeah, I usually pick off the butternut. Sometimes I won't though. Acorn squash, I used to always pick off the peel, but then like this, when it's cut this way, it's kind of hard to scrape out all of the, the flesh from the peel. So I would say it's up to you whether you eat the peel or not. But if it's really fork tender, like this one, if you can cut it with the side of your fork, look how tender that is. I would say go ahead and eat it. But it's really up to you whether you eat the peel or not. But you can, and hey, it's more fiber, right?
Exactly.
So that's it. We made our 2 recipes, and it didn't take us long at all to prepare. So definitely something easy that you can do for a delicious family fall meal. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? No questions today. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining me and sharing your knowledge of canning and gardening and being the master of a big family.
I don't know about that.
You have your other master.
That's true. That's true.
In the room too. So
takes 2.
It takes 2.
At least at our house.
Definitely, or more.
Yeah.
So, and thank you to our live audience and our viewers at home for joining us today, and hope to see you back next month.